Attention!
All right, this is DoomCast number 9. It's September 26, 2013. My name is Doug Owen, and Charlie Mcgrath is alongside me. A lot to get into tonight. As always, it is fun to reacquaint ourselves with some of the week's news and hash it out with Charlie Mcgrath and kind of get a different approach or a different look at some of the headlines and the talking points, some of the memes and narratives that you have to kind of navigate your way through. So we do this weekly. We had to forego it yesterday because Charlie Mcgrath and all of his awesomeness has made it to the show today, but just barely. And yesterday you were kind of ill. So thanks for trooping for the Doomers.
Hey, I'm glad I can make it. This morning I didn't text you right when I got out of bed, but I thought there was no way it was happening. I did not utter a sound till noon today. And if it wasn't for green tea and a little peppermint tea, I wouldn't be here. No way.
Peppermint? Was that a Freudian slip?
Oh, did I say peppermint?
You said peppermint.
Oh, wow. Who knew?
We should sell peppermint. I love it.
Oh, my God. Quick, get the domain, Doug Owen. Type away. Get that domain name.
That's the kind of great stuff that we give away free here on the Doomcast. So
peppermint.
There's value to this show.
The Peppermint Twins.
Yeah, man. Yeah, so... There's so many things to really jump into. I know I say that, it's kind of cliche, but today we have Jamie Dimon. We should talk about this. He is making a deal with Eric Holder in secret, and CNBC reported that there might be this unprecedented payout by JP Morgan to keep little Jamie out of jail. $11 billion. The only thing that has been as large, or actually, the biggest next lawsuit that has ever happened was the GlaxoSmithKline lawsuit for $3 billion, where they were pushing antidepressants on people that didn't need them. Surprise, surprise.
Shocker indeed. Well, look, $11 billion. It sounds like a lot, and this, Doug, this is how they roll. Right, the Washington, D.C. establishment, along with the financial industry, they love to accentuate and exaggerate the fines that might potentially be paid, and in some cases are paid. But when you look at $11 billion, I mean, come on, Goldman Sachs got more than that in backdoor bailouts in 2008. It's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. These guys are trillions upon trillions upon trillions of our future has been robbed and stolen and given to them. I mean, for Pete's sake, the Federal Reserve is buying $40 billion a month in mortgage-backed securities, in a lot of cases created by these scumbag institutions. So $11 billion, it sounds like a lot. It's shocking. The mainstream business media will play this to the hilt, but in reality, that's your money. They're using your money in order to pay their fine so they don't go to jail.
Well, yeah, that's why it's really important that we not allow maybe these corporations to get off by just paying punitive damages, financial retribution, because of course the people that were affected, that lost their homes, the people that lost their retirements, that saw their futures and their children's futures evaporate, those people will not be paid back. They're not going to see a dime of that $11 billion when it does get paid out. And you look at the Exxon Valdez debacle. Took some of those people 20 years to get paid out, and about half of the people that would have been recipients died prior to payout. So
yeah, well, and the money doesn't go in the money. Excuse me, I sound like a prepubescent teen here. The money, Squeak, doesn't go to the people anyway. It goes right back to the government. In fact, I did a video here just a couple nights ago on some bigwigs who were part of the Wall Street mortgage-backed security debacle. And one of them, out of all of these ones I've covered, one of them had a jury in California, a judgment against them for $165 million between him and his partner. Now, this will get appealed, first of all. And even if it doesn't get even if it goes to appeal and they still lose again, the article even says the insurance company will pay that fine. So it isn't like this money's ever coming out of their pocket. And when it does, if that fine is paid, it goes to the government. It doesn't go to the people.
No. No, it usually doesn't make its way to the recipients.
No.
There's plenty of people that do find their way to get into your pockets. One of the stories that I thought was pretty astounding. We hear all of the talk about welfare, right? We talk about the welfare state. Last week, DoomCast 8, we talked about the king in the Netherlands basically cutting off the people, saying, look, you're going to have to just, get used to working.
Get over it.
Yeah, you're going to have to get used to working. There's not going to be any more of these free rides or any of this. So it's the brutal reality. But this would probably surprise most people, and this story got almost no traction. The average American family pays $6,000 a year in subsidies to big business. Now, when you think about, 65% of people are on welfare. They may be getting, $45, maybe $100 from SNAP or some other state or federal program. But that average family is actually paying corporate welfare to the tune of $6,000, which really should so we you look at this and you realize, wow, the media, the whole narrative is focused on the victims in this, the people that are paying out anymore, and it's those people that end up on food stamps and other subsidies in a lot of cases.
Well, and you know what, I really, first of all, for those of you who are listening, what chat room do we have them in, Doug? Because we only have about half a dozen people, I think, over in mine. Are we in another one too?
No, I don't think so.
All right. So if you're listening live and you want to go into a chat, I know Doug's in this chat, so am I. You can go to my website, wideawakenews.com. Click on. Let me see what one you got to click on here.
There's a link up there at the top.
There is a link. What's it say? Wide Awake Radio. Click on that, and you'll go into the chat room, and we are in there. Yeah. All right. Let me get my Doom voice on.
All right. There you go. I'm trying to freaking fix my keyboard over here. All right. There we go. Oh, by the way, did you see some of the comments? People were more at ease, or not at ease. That's not the right way to frame it. People were more interested in the Russian beaver attack than maybe in Syria or some of the other now back burner stories that are not getting a lot of focus.
The beaver story isn't.
What's that? No.
The beaver story, you brought that to light. I mean, you broke that story.
I did. And you saw the video. Did you not see the video?
I saw the video. Yeah, I saw it. It was. But I do want to jump back real quick. Get into the chat room if you're not in there. The other thing I was going to say is Doug and I are doing this via video tonight. So I'm hoping that we have, some people had said that we sometimes step on each other. It's because we can't see each other. And it's harder to have a conversation two-way just like a telephone. Sometimes you end up talking over each other. But now we got video set up. Doug's looking at me. I'm looking at him. So it should be a little bit cleaner on that respect. However, Doug, I want to jump back a little bit here because I get really frustrated when I hear the welfare state, when I hear about how there's too many subsidies being given to the people, and I said in 2008 and 2009 when austerity started to come into play inside of Europe, look, this is exactly the play they're going to make across the globe. They're going to spend nations into oblivion, their future into oblivion. And then once all the banking interests are paid off, and we see that they are now completely paid off, they're making more money than ever before, then they're going to turn on the people of the world and say, you're too fat, you're too lazy, you don't work long enough hours, you get too much free stuff, so we're going to cut it off. It's your fault. And this was the plan from 2008 till going forward. They figured with a 5-6 year expanse of time, they could change the narrative in the country away from bankers and onto each other. And I think that's what we're seeing.
Well, Obama laid out the plan. Did you see him speak at the UN?
What time?
Just recently. He just spoke at the United Nations. Here's just a little clip, and I think it's pretty straight in your face, very overt as to what the agenda is. So just check this out.
Let me take this opportunity to outline what has been U.S. policy towards the Middle East and North Africa, and what will be my policy during the remainder of my presidency. The United States of America is prepared to use all elements of our power, including military force, to secure our core interests in the region. We will confront external aggression against our allies and partners, as we did in the Gulf War. We will ensure the free flow of energy from the region to the world.
See, that's what it's about. It's about the energy.
Although America is steadily reducing our own dependence on imported oil, the world still depends on the region's energy supply, and a severe disruption could destabilize the entire global economy.
All right, so that's what it's about. It's about making sure the entire global economy is stabilized. And he goes on here, and there's a lot of other takeaways. He talks about guns, and we just had John Kerry sign the UN arms treaty.
Yeah, a lot of people thought that was going away. You know, a lot of people thought when that was shot down, a year ago, that it was going away. Nope, it isn't going away.
It's like herpes.
Yeah, it's here, and it's and you know, this is the same thing with the internet legislation to put a kill switch on it or to control it or regulate it harder. Every time you think there's a victory because, you know, it doesn't have the momentum, it doesn't die. It just, you know, it lays in wait for another 6 months or 12 months, and then comes back, and they keep pounding it until they get it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's interesting. They're looking at North Africa, and we have the Kenyan Mall incident, the massacre there. And I don't know if you saw this. This just came out of the Star today. The National Intelligence Service gave advanced warning of the Westgate attack, according to some security officers. And oddly enough, shocker, they're named. Okay, these are named sources. General Michael Gichangi, maybe. NIS Director General is due to meet MPs on the Defense and Foreign Relations Committee this morning. Apparently, he said that they would prefer to testify in public, but Defense Committee Chairman Ndungu Gethernji, T2, maybe, has indicated that the meeting will be closed to the media. So anyway, it goes on here to say that two NIS officers, these are intelligence agents, who did not want their names identified, but do want to speak in public. They do want to be identified, revealed yesterday and told the Star that their organization had given advanced warning of the attack to Inspector General of Police David Kimajo and the Criminal Investigations Department. And it goes on. This one woman says that she was told that by her brother, who's an officer as well, that he didn't want her to go to the Westgate Mall because she would not be able to run away because she's pregnant. And it seemed that everyone knew that something was going to happen here. Interestingly enough, though, we had some Americans as well as other expats at this highly public area in the region. This is one of the U.S. aid areas where there's tons of investment. It's one of these economic boom towns, but well, not really, but I mean for the region,
for the area.
Yeah, considering. Yeah. So very timely having all this, but then within moments there was Israeli commandos. I mean, the story got very fantastical, very wild, and it seems that though I don't know if it's necessarily Western sponsored, that this is definitely an inside job, and this is just one of many examples of people inside of intelligence agencies having prior knowledge to attacks and other operations. And so then you need to ask yourself: is it collusion? Is it staged false flag terror? Or is it just complete utter incompetence? And regardless of which one of them you pick, we have a problem. I mean, if these intelligence agencies knows about 9/11 and just sits back and let it happen, well, that's either criminal or it's it's completely incompetent. But the fact is, it's not just an isolated incident like Kenya. We see it time and time again. We see it when there's a Boston bombing. There's a drill going on. The Aurora shooting, a drill going on, and it just goes on and on, Doug. So it's easy for somebody like me to err on the side of these guys are involved. Not only are they involved, I think in some cases they set this stuff up to help propagate an agenda of a new world order. It wouldn't be It wouldn't be a shock to think that there were actually terrorists in the Kenyan government. I mean, come on.
Well, there's terrorists in our government. Of course, there's terrorists in the Kenyan government. Yeah. I truly believe that. I believe that with all my heart that we have people in our government that have been there so long that they have become despotic dictator terrorists, and they're going around the world swinging the big stick, for the goals that the front man came out and said in front of the UN.
Obama laid it out. He said, look, anybody that's not on board, that's not one of our allies, that aggresses against one of our allies, we're going to come and we're going to hit you with everything. He goes on to blame Bashar al-Assad, though.
What is different between that and George W. Bush, access of evil? He
pardoned and said that he would continue the legacy. The Gulf War, he justified it. I mean, I was listening to Jeremy Scahill, and he said that his jaw hit the floor. I mean, my jaw didn't hit the floor. I was a little bit shocked, though. It was just a month maybe about 2 months ago that Joe Biden was at one of these Christian, one of these brunches that they show on C-SPAN or breakfasts. I forget who he was speaking to. The Glee Club, some other group, I don't know. And
we spending taxpayer money, hand over fist.
This is exactly what he said, actually, rather than trying to recall that. I just keep
give me Joe.
So, Joe, tell us what it is all about. Joe, where are you? There's Joe.
The affirmative task we have now is to actually create a new world order.
You hear everybody eating in the background, the plates and everything going. They're like, whatever, Joe. Give me another fried egg. But I mean, so this is all being laid out. This is the new plan.
Was that it for the New World Order? Was it?
Oh, yeah, I know he goes on and talks about the economic cooperative that needs to happen and the cohesion, but blah blah blah.
Breakfast buffet in Skokie, Illinois. Ka-chink, 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 ka-chink.
Yeah.
New World Order. Bring it on, Joe.
I mean, you were talking about people in government scumbags that are stealing from the people that are. It's not just in the executive branch. I mean, now we're seeing some of the really, really bad examples of what happens when you have out of control government, when you have rogue government. Detroit, they were robbing from pensions. It shouldn't surprise most of us, but you would think that this would be illegal. It should be illegal. Thank you, Glass-Steagall. Thank you, deregulation, and all of the other so-called great things that Rubin and Clinton and others.
You mean the destruction of Glass-Steagall, the Depression-era law that keeps banks from becoming either investment bank or a holding company, but can't be both. That evaporated in 1999 under Bill Clinton. And I was going to scream this into the microphone, but I'm glad you cut me off. And here's why: because I don't have a lot of voice left. But all you out there that might be listening to this, the people who are tuning in to listen to it live, obviously, are probably on board with our point of view. But if you have this sent to you, or you pick this up on YouTube or wherever later, and you think of yourself as a red or a blue stater, man, it is time to wake up and realize Obama gets on the floor of the UN and he delivers a George W. Bush speech. We got old Joe Biden, truthful Joe Biden, in Skokie, Illinois, at a brunch, telling how the New World Order is on its way, and we have to continue to do this. They serve the exact same masters. Corporate special interest. Obama said it. We got to keep the oil flowing. We got to keep this cheap, high-grade crude coming out of the Middle East, and we will kill you to do it. We will kill you if you're not on board, period.
Global economic order. That is the most important thing, and it doesn't matter what happens. That's what it's all about.
That's right.
And so, I mean, he's selling that. He's selling that to the UN. So basically, it's a sit down and shut up, and you either get on board or you might find yourself
die.
Oh,
you
yeah.
die.
He was very heavily critical of Vladimir Putin as well. And he talked about guns. Now, we had, Kerry, I mentioned this, the UN gun treaty. Listen to Barack Obama. He tells me all the time when I listen to him that he cares about the Second Amendment. He's a fan of the Second Amendment, right? I mean, he says that. And when he talks to his good buddies at the global picnic at the UN, this is what he says.
It ought to be a shock to all of us as a nation and as a people. It ought to obsess us. It ought to lead to some sort of transformation. That's what happened in other countries when they experienced similar tragedies. In the United Kingdom, in Australia.
That's right. They rounded up all the guns. They cut them all up, and they melted them, and they turned them into mementos and other things to other propagandistic tools. I forget. There were some weird things that they did with those guns. They turned them into statues, monuments. Pretty disgusting stuff. But he's saying, well, we didn't learn from these tragedies, these other tragedies that enforced or led to strict gun control regulation happening were good because those people learned their lessons.
When just a single mass shooting occurred in those countries, they understood that there was nothing ordinary about this kind of carnage. They endured great heartbreak, but they also mobilized and they changed.
That's right. They mobilized, they changed,
Boy, listen to the verbiage, right? Mobilized. And he might as well have put a forced in front of the word change, right? And mobilized for a forced change because of a mass shooting. Is there more to that clip, or?
No, that's pretty much what.
That's it.
Sorry.
And even in the nations he's talking about, the UK and Australia, they had even lower mass shooting statistics than we did, Doug Owen. And again, is more people dying by bee stings. It's 10 times the number of people are falling out of their bed and dying each year. So it is scary when you hear our president, talking to not the American people that are supposed to enjoy the protection of the Second Amendment, but he's talking about, the plan that they want to institute going forward, period. We want to follow in the wake of the UK and Australia.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We haven't learned our lesson, and we just have to keep being reminded. Eric Holder, I got you here. This is his buddy who's talking to Jamie Dimon, and I would love to be a fly on the wall. I want to hear what they're talking about. How much does it cost to get me out of here?
Jamie Dimon is not going to spend 1 millisecond in jail, and he won't even use his money to bail his ass out of jail. He'll use yours.
He'll borrow it. He'll sell you some derivatives or something else.
He'll steal it.
Yeah, here's what Eric Holder said.
We need to do this every day of the week and just really brainwash people into thinking about guns in a vastly different way.
So, I mean, the message is clear. You have to brainwash people. You should learn your lessons.
Jiminy Christmas, man. What a statement. And you know what? It's working because I think about guns every single day now. I think about where can I get my next one? How can I get more ammunition before the government buys it out?
Yeah. You are not among the majority. You know what the majority of people in this country are thinking about? Regardless of all of the news about spying, you know what they're thinking about?
Tell me, Doug Owen.
They're thinking about the iPhone. Did you hear about this? Did you see this today? The iPhone, okay, listen to this. This came from Bloomberg Business Week, and it's an amazing stat. iPhone sales in the last year exceed all revenue to Microsoft, Amazon, Comcast, or Google. The iPhone alone outsells Coca-Cola and McDonald's, perhaps the two most famous brands in the world. Okay? Yeah. All of that. And Google, people, and this is the funny thing, there's a gold-coated new iPhone. People don't want that nearly as much as the one that has gold-colored plating. That one's actually more valuable, which has to really, I think, just be a mind effort for some of the gold bugs out there. Maybe I think that's some deep messaging to them that to make them upset. They're like, oh, because I saw a bunch of people railing on that, but it really speaks to the fact that people don't care. They're getting acclimated to this. It used to be just a year ago, people would be pretty shocked that Obama would say something like this, that basically excuses and endorses and is continuing the Bush legacy. I mean, that's pretty damning. That's pretty shocking.
Well,
not to me and you, but
yeah, I was gonna say it's not shocking to you that he would do this because we've been saying this all along. When Bush went out and Obama came in, so went the way of Code Pink and all these people that were anti-war protests. You didn't see them anywhere, and they didn't go away. They still have their same beliefs. They just don't get any airtime now. They just flip the script every 4 to 8 years, and it looks like it's been 8 years the last couple. But they flip the script on what the narrative is to the people. But in reality, the actions are exactly the same. And yeah, we have trinkets out there. We got trinkets. Consumer debt is now again on the increase. We have people going to school because they can't find jobs. So we have over $1 trillion in student loan debt. And as long as there's this feeling of normalcy, people will just sit here and suck it up and take anything, it seems. But at the end of the day, it comes down to something we talked about a couple Doomcasts ago, which is when it all comes crashing down, is it going to be a soft landing into into third world nation status, or are we going to see a complete collapse and total chaos across the board? And, look at, if you had in a major incident, Doug, a major incident that took oil to $500 a barrel, right? Sinking an aircraft carrier in the Gulf, that might do it. Or a war, Israel going to war with one of the nations of its neighbors might also do it. And there's a number of factors that could cause energy prices to just skyrocket. And all of a sudden, your nation comes to a grinding halt. And you have all these people walking around zombified because the NFL is playing football games now virtually every day of the week. You always have the gladiator games going on. And if that doesn't pacify you, you got the new iPhone 6, 7, whatever coming down the pipe. You got to be thinking about that. So you have a populace that is completely zombified in a lot of respects. And then you couple that with a global crisis. Those people that are completely unaware and they believe that Obama is the blue state leader and he cares about the people and he's different than George W. Bush, man, they got a true, slap coming right upside their head when it all comes crashing down. There's just going to be a lot of people who are stunned, dazed, and confused because they thought everything was on the right track.
Well, yeah. I mean, there's always those people that think everything's okay. And there's people that have done everything right, and one day, they find themselves at the short end of the stick, and whatever it may be, a personal situation or whether we have economic chaos and this affects people. I think mostly, the debate really lies in how big it is. Most people, I think, envision it to be a huge regional thing where the government would have to get everybody who's like, which, you would have a certain amount of chaos. Maybe if something like that happened, a solar flare or some other crazy type event, which, I mean, you can, envision almost anything at any moment. I mean, the planet is far from static. I mean, beyond government, I mean, things that are, Earth changes, other X factors in the grand equation. But, when it comes to the economy, there's always going to be people that are going to need products and they're going to need stuff and they need services rendered.
I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that at all. I mean, people are always going to need food. They're always going to need water. There's a big difference between always going to need and always going to be able to get, and I think that's one thing that's lost, especially in our genre, that, you have the people that are completely convinced that a solar flare is coming, it's going to wipe everything out. It's going to be like the television show Revolution, where there's no electricity and it's survival of the fittest. I don't think that's coming. But I do think that we will get to a point where we lose the status of the world reserve currency. We lose the status of the world's superpower. And there's a big awakening coming to the people that think this can never run out. And what I'm talking about is the never-ending debt. The only thing that makes life seem normal to most people right now, and I shouldn't throw everybody into most people, but there is a big chunk of the populace who's just feeling like it's, maybe a little tough, but normal. The only thing that allows that to happen that doesn't happen with any other country in the world is the fact that the world looks at us to be its policeman and to have the world reserve currency. Either of those things come under question, well, guess what? No, then all of a sudden you better look at Cyprus, you better look at Greece, and you better look at some of these other European nations and see how they're doing in the midst of economic chaos, because the people don't fare too well in those situations.
No. I mean, you look at a place like Cyprus where you basically had the robbing of people's bank accounts, literally. It didn't affect everybody. It affected the wealthy and people that had retirements. If you had a few $100,000 saved up in annuities, or you had cash in your checking your checking account, they took it. They didn't take all of it. They didn't leave you high and dry. They just took some of it, and that's going to happen here. That is absolutely going to happen here. Get ready for that for sure. I don't think that's really. I mean, some people could argue it. We won't argue that. I think we're in agreement that those kind of things, those kind of austerity hits, are going to come. Although there's been some reflections from what has happened in the Eurozone. I mean, you don't hear about Greece. Everything's okay there. Wink, wink. Everything's fine in Spain. They've recovered. Charlie Mcgrath.
They're back. They're back. I mean, I know that 18 to 25-year-olds are over 60% unemployed, But they don't talk about it on CNBC, so they're back.
Yeah, well, I guess they just hope that they will go and get their free Planned Parenthood, and they won't procreate, and they'll only be around for 30 years. That's their idea. That's austerity. The human toll. That's another thing Larry said.
Let me ask you this, Doug. Let me ask you this, because I know you and I, we probably we kind of disagree or talk about the severity of crisis. Would you agree with me that what happened in 2008 had the world freaking out? For a few days, it was freaking out.
Yeah, it definitely was freaking out.
Yeah, and could you also agree with me that sort of collapse, and that was sparked by mortgage-backed securities and companies failing because they were loaded to the hilt with them, derivatives created on them, sold around the world, governments failed because of it. Would you agree with me that sort of collapse, where it's going to be at the hands of these mass financial terrorists, is going to happen again? That I believe is inevitable. Would you agree with that?
Maybe. I'm not saying I don't think it's inevitable. I think it could happen again. There's so much high leverage, and let's when you look at the amount of debt, there's a lot of things, a lot of mechanisms the government can use. They can absolve debt. They can come in and buy debt. They can give people basically a jubilee on debt. There's a lot of things that they can do. They can start another central bank. They can print. So it's not that they,
it's unfortunate. It's unfortunate that the government, we the people, don't actually own that debt. The $3.5 trillion of debt on mortgage-backed securities and treasuries, the largest accumulated ever. More debt has been bought by the Federal Reserve since 2007. They've amassed more than between George Washington and Bill Clinton. It's too bad that it's private central bankers that are holding that leverage and that power. Because you're right, if it was the United States government that owned that debt and controlled that power, we could say, all right, this doesn't exist anymore. Or here's $1 trillion coin, or many measures that countries have taken throughout history. But we can't do that because a bunch of bankers own it, and the bunch of bankers that own it, they're not going to let that happen. They're going to want it all. Sorry.
Well, yeah. I mean, maybe. I mean, how much do you want? You can only hold all of the electronic digits for so long before there's a reset, right? Like Monopoly. Once Monopoly happens, then then you have to flip the board. So yeah. I think rather than flipping the board, they're going to diverse themselves, and they're trying to do it with some things like carbon credits, and taxing the ability to create. They've already taxed everything to the hilt, to the point where everything's so leveraged that you can't even create. So now they're just taxing and creating derivatives on things that may be created someday.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what the next level of insanity will be. Special drawing rights, maybe even rehypothecating these debts with gold. A lot of people believe that China is going to attach gold bonds to the yuan. Who knows? Is that going to happen? Does that have to happen? I don't know. As far as what the solution is. I mean, when you look at what happened with Lehman Brothers, all of that going back, basically the government bailed out these institutions rather than doing what I think would have probably been a better idea, and that is just nationalizing them.
Absolutely.
Venezuela, they're doing pretty crappy. Have you heard? They have a toilet paper problem, and so the Venezuelan government, it's pretty crappy. That was my little pun there.
I got it.
Because they need toilet paper. They just signed a $20 billion agreement with China, which is always nice, to boost production of the Orinoco oil belt and the exploration of that, and giving them investment. So they're selling off, just like most governments. I mean, it's pretty fine example of what's happening right now, and it's basically selling the rights to things sometime in the future. It's just like selling your baseball stadium to Enron.
I think that's, if nothing else, no kidding. I think if nothing else, that's good prepper advice. You have a nation that is oil rich, selling its future rights because it's running low on TP.
Yeah. So you know what? It is. It's a hell of a metaphor for what's happening, and it's a pretty crappy situation. But in a lot of people, including myself, are critical. The government coming in, taking over businesses. We own this thing now. Of course, that's not a good capitalistic model, but during
Well,
the World War, it was pretty okay. During World War I and World War II, to seize, Ike seized. He's quite revered for telling us about the military-industrial complex, but he also seized steel factories to fight a war.
Yeah.
You were making whatever you were making, pots and pans. You're making ships now.
Yeah.
You're making weaponry, and if you don't like it, we'll just round you up and put you in a FEMA camp, or the early versions thereof.
Well, and in my hometown, Butte, Montana, I've told this story on my program before. During World War I, they had machine guns and troops roaming the streets, and miners could not congregate more than 2 at a time because there was this talk of a union, and that union had to be busted because they needed the copper. Butte, Montana was the largest in the world at the time, copper mine, open pit copper, underground at that time, copper mine. And so the U.S. government put troops on the ground in order to keep miners from talking to each other and forming any kind of a union, because it would derail the war production. So, yeah, it's happened before where
there were some bankers. There was one guy, I don't know his name, I forget it, but he actually ran over somebody drunk, and they excused him and gave him impunity because they needed him during that Lehman crisis, the 2008 crisis. So there's several bankers, one of which died right next to Neil Kashkari because he was on overnight benders trying to shove all that money. Those poor guys are trying to, make right on a lot of years of really bad accounting and trying to make it all make sense. I could only imagine. But then again, when you eat caviar every night, you might have high blood pressure.
Well, these bankers, Doug, these bankers are scum. I mean, they're scum. They're so in bed with the politicians that they pay for. I have no sympathy for any of them, any of these guys. I've got a list of names here that these are bankers that drove this nation into the ground, pumping mortgage-backed securities they knew were garbage. None of them went to jail. None of them went to prison. None of them have been paid a dime out. Most of them are doing absolutely as well as they were pre-2008. And in a lot of cases, they're starting up new companies, trying to get back into the pump and dump scheme.
Yeah, well, there's a lot of money to be made.
I want to give these names out, but there's no way I could get through it. There's no way.
Right.
So I'm not.
Well, I mean, you look at what's happened, okay? Regardless of all of the bankers, blaming these guys because they're just taking a little cut, and it takes a lot of people to play in this system. People saying,
Sure.
wow, I mean, I saw this in the early 2000s. I was buying a home, and they're like, yeah, we'll give you $250,000. And I was making literally at the time like $40,000 a year on a salary. I'd just been working at a company for 2 months. The economy was, booming in Austin, and so, it was just easy money. Easy money, high interest, but easy money. But people were making a lot of money off their investments. And if you bought muni bonds, you could just retire. It was like, it's golden. Get you $1 million worth of muni bonds. You never have to work again. You're going to make $70,000 a year, and you're going to, enjoy going to the casinos, hanging out. And that was kind of the plan. And that was like the bedrock. And, to be a contrarian at the time and tell people, this joyride, this is a joyride. At some point, there's going to be a day of reckoning. These guys are trying to give me 15 different credit cards and $1 million worth of credit. That that cannot. And I'm one of the few responsible people, I would say, at least minimally, that didn't just indulge and overwhelm myself with debt. At that time, I'm like, well, I can't make that mortgage payment. But there's a lot of people, and you see, some of these idiots that really got hurt by it. And the people that were in tune, that were not oblivious to it, were able to actually profit from it. Sadly enough, there's usually people that get taken on a run, and they're gullible, and those people, they're always prone. And that's why we have safety nets in this country, and that's why we do have these. I know people call it a welfare state, but we have safety nets for the and I think we talked about this. The 10 or 11% of people, I believe, that in any society, in any country, are always going to have, some kind of need for the government to help them or people to help them.
Well, yeah, and you were talking about that time period, and I remember that because I've been in the building industry in one form or another since I left the military. So, I mean, it's been 20 years. And I remember the run up to the collapse. I remember the several years beforehand where people were buying a house and making 25% a year on their house, and then so they're loading up all this debt on the equity in their home, and they felt like they didn't have any debt because they had the equity in the home and it just wasn't there. I know a lot of people that did that. I also know a lot of people that hung a shingle and called themselves a mortgage company, and they would be out there trying to get the Doug Owens of the world. Hey, you make 40 grand a year. Hey, you got a credit score of at that time, basically, if you could fog up a mirror with your breath, you got a loan for a McMansion. But you got to look at who was pushing that, because without the demand, the insatiable demand on high to buy those debts, repackage them, sell them around the world as these awesome return investments, you wouldn't have the guy in the shingle out there trying to con people into buying more house than they could afford. So you got to look at, yes, there's people that have to take responsibility for their own actions. But when you have this push from Wall Street to get more and more people into this massive amount of debt, only because it makes them more money, Wall Street more money, knowing full well when the hit the fan, it was going to be a matter of scaring the hell out of the public, tanking the markets for a few days, and then the government turning over and giving these bankers everything they ever wanted in spades. And that's what's happened. Now we have legislation that is written by bankers for bankers. We have an economy that is barely inching along with $80 billion a month in debt being bought by the Federal Reserve. And the second that these guys, these gangsters, want to change this scenario or flip the script, it's simple now. They don't have to do anything other than say, we're not going to buy this debt anymore, and bam, it's game over.
Well, yeah. There's a lot
Bam.
of other. There's a lot of other options. There's a lot of other things that could happen, in that. And I think that the value of having people in debt is that you have them over a barrel.
Yes.
Now, if you collapse the debt and you blow up the debt, you blow up the bubble, then everything that you have worked so hard to create for yourself or obtain by nefarious means, all of that goes away as well. And so I don't think that bankers want to blow up the system. I think that they just want to rob and find other ways to make themselves rich. And it's a risk.
This is why 2 years ago, Goldman Sachs talked about the investments going into a decade down the road. The most solid investments were going to be infrastructure and municipalities. They want to buy it all, and they're going to buy it all with your money. They're going to buy infrastructures in cities, counties, states. They're going to sell that, leverage it, and sell investments into these. And who cares if the things stay maintained? Who cares if they fall apart? These guys, when we go through the next Lehman-style collapse, and Doug, it's coming. When that happens, sure, they might on paper, oh, look at this, poor J.P. Morgan, their stock's fallen 80%. They don't give a crap about that because they already have all the wealth and assets. They have it. They're holding it. And we, the people, are going to be the ones that, again, are going to be looked at and said, you live too grandiose, you live too large, fight amongst yourselves while we figure out how to corporatize the government even further and make every drive you take a J.P. Morgan-sponsored event.
Yeah. At some point, the rubber meets the road, doesn't it? At some point, people get upset about it, and they no longer want to participate in that system. Yeah, you may have that. Here's something inflammatory. Did you know that the Senate hair care was $5.25 million? That's how much you taxpayers out there, myself included, paid for Boehner, Pelosi, and of course the ball fade on Barack Obama and others. I think it's pretty ridiculous. It's pretty freaking crazy.
Between you and I, we don't spend $5 a year on hair care. Mm-hmm. Obviously, we're supporting the Armageddon.
How much money do you think Daryl Issa has?
Millions.
How much? Just a rough guess. Take a guess.
His total net worth?
Mm-hmm. Total net worth.
50.
$140 million, and we're paying for his haircut. My God, pisses me off.
It's sick and wrong. And again,
But
look,
but here's the thing: somebody who won't go ahead and pay, and I'm not just bagging on Daryl Issa, John Kerry. They say he's worth 198 million, and who knows how much his wife's made.
a
She's
little bit more than that.
Yeah, she's amazingly rich. But you look at government. I mean, these are a bunch of rich guys, and they're living high on the hog. I mean, most of them: Bob Dole, Newt Gingrich, Trent Lott, Dick Cheney. All make at least $100,000 on a talking circuit for life in federal pensions. So, I mean, and they all, have no problem exempting themselves from Obamacare and then all the rest of it. So I think that what's going to happen is one of two things. One of two things is going to happen. People now are understanding how they've been conned. They're seeing who the true predators are through the internet, through the exchange of ideas and communication in the 21st century. That's great because, 100 years ago, Hearst Publishing could, basically control the central narrative. There was one monolithic idea, and that was pro-government. So now we have a decentralized discussion, and people are able to now understand that. And we're understanding that paying taxes isn't being patriotic. Whereas 100 years ago, people didn't know any better. The American people, as much as we revere the good old days, didn't do much when our government rounded up people. And I don't remember people saying, hey, what about the Constitution? You can't just round up people. The government did it on so many occasions. So, I mean, only now are we starting to really frown on that. It's only now that we're starting to get past things like eugenics laws. I mean, at a time when people consider it the golden age of the American, we rounded up vagrants and sterilized them. So it's all perspective and where you're at in society as to how you remember the good old days and what you want to accomplish. If you're a banker, you want the good old days to remain. Those guys want to maintain their powerful positions, but I don't think that they want to blow up the system either. I don't think that they mind robbing from people, but they know, or at least they believe they know, how far they can push the people of this not just this country but the world.
Yeah, well, that's why I say they do want to blow up this system, because even though it's been completely bastardized, it isn't the New World Order, global financial governance that they're longing for, and that attempt is coming, and you can't get there. You can't get there. I mean, look what it took to completely dismantle free market capitalism. What was left of it, after Glass-Steagall 99 and forward to 2001. Look what it took in order to finally call it out for what it is, a complete fascist system, financial fascist system. It took a collapsing of Lehman. It took the crisis that the world is still living in to achieve that. So you got to ask yourself, what's it going to take to achieve their stated goal, which is global financial governance? We're not making
war. Come on. I mean, look at World War II. What did we get?
Well,
it's either Woods. We got Bretton Woods out of that, and I'm sure out of World War IV, we'll get something else.
I think it's going to be a financial war. I think that's what we're going to see first, Doug. I think we'll see, the whole Western world, the powerful Western rich world, has been seeing their sovereign debt quadruple in as many years. We're all being led into this debt nightmare together, and when they collapse it, sovereign debt bomb goes off. You will have calls for global financial governance. Now, I don't know if in between there and now, we're at war with Russia or China or what. Maybe that's a backup plan. But, in one respect, I believe you're right. They don't want to completely push the table over and have a global thermonuclear war and wipe out the whole planet. Right. But they certainly can achieve, especially with technology, this enslavement of the whole entire world through a weapon that is much more devastating, which is this financial terror that they're unleashing on us. I can't talk so well.
Yeah, I mean, you don't sound doomy enough because you can't talk. You kind of... Yeah. You're missing the mark, Charlie.
Yeah, I can't help it, man. I'm like literally forcing air through my larynx. Is that it? Mm-hmm. To get sound out.
Yeah.
It's painful. I'm taking one for the team.
Well, we all appreciate it. Sign of the times, my friend. More people are actually moving to Mexico now than moving here. So
no way.
That's true.
Really?
I don't know if this is really true, but it came from it came from the New York Times. So the people that read the Times, you might think it's pretty true, but yeah,
that has to be legal, right? Legal immigration is now surpassed by legal.
No, they're saying that actually more people are moving to Mexico rather than coming here from there. So that's not to say that there aren't more people, migrants, maybe Chinese or other people coming to the country, maybe even via Mexico, but that more Mexican people are leaving this country, or more people are heading towards Mexico than towards here.
I don't know why they're under the same system we are. I mean, I don't know if it's better there.
Well, I think that a lot of people, you listen to them, and I've seen a bunch of documentaries, and I live in Texas, so there's plenty of people here that are guest workers, and that's what they want to be. They don't want to really immigrate. They want to come here. They want to work tax free. They want to get some bennies, and then they want to go home and take that money and be able to build a little ranch in Mexico somewhere. And that's kind of their, for the most part, the people that I've met, their mentality, and so. Now they're going to have to pay Obamacare. I think that they're really, and regardless of how many hours Ted Cruz dances singing Green Eggs and Ham or reading for his daughter there, which I don't know. Did you watch any of that?
Yeah, a little bit of the freak show. Yeah.
He's just so effeminate. That's the only problem with Ted Cruz. He just sounds girly. Hey, everybody. And it's disingenuous because they're not going to defund Obamacare anyway, and they're not going to shut down the government because that's not what the Republicans are about.
I agree with that. The Republicans have every reason to raise the debt ceiling. I was going to tie this with the debt ceiling because that's one of the things that the Republicans are asking for is, okay, if we raise the debt ceiling, we got to get another year before Obamacare gets put into effect. And, I'm kind of with you. This is all smoke and mirrors and wrangling so people can say they tried, so they can look at their, constituency and say, yeah, we had your interest at heart. That's why we went for this or that.
Hey, Rand Paul, he doesn't like drones looking at you in the hot tub, apparently, because that's what he said. Now, he doesn't care if they're monitoring the border or unconstitutional checkpoints or some of the other things that I kind of find to be atrocious.
Why do you bring him up all the time?
Why is that? Maybe it's because people are blind to the. Well, I think it's just disingenuous. It's just these people that are kind of lauded as heroes, and they just kind of they pay lip service to the libertarian community. Yeah, and they take those people on a ride. I mean, it's like Reason. I'll bang them. Reason is a neoliberal think tank pretending to be libertarian news. And that's what it is. And you look at most of these guys, and they're Trotskyites. They're a bunch of socialists, but they like the corporate aspect to libertarianism, and they find their own little flavor of fascism. So sorry, Ted Cruz. I mean, as far as people that I find it to be enjoyable. I could play sound bites of him saying that he doesn't like green eggs and ham, but I won't do it. But so he provides material for the DoomCast, but
and God bless him for that, Doug Owen.
Oh well, that's all I really look to politicians for is entertainment. They're just it's just Hollywood for ugly people.
Well, and it's I think it's a location that a lot of would-be dictators end up, and that's exactly what they end up being. Is 40-year never leave and influence this country. Through what they will let be talked about and not talked about. And as far as Obamacare goes, what do you think? I mean, this thing it's happening, right? There's not going to be any defunding it. There's not going to be, there might be a few months, maybe even a year or two. But, the government has, and let's call it, this is more fascist control. So it doesn't matter if it's Obama or the next guy. This is coming in.
Well, you just have to, pay the fines. It's just like anything else. If you want to opt out of paying your taxes, you can do that. You can opt out of it. You don't have to do it. You're not going to have to go and tell them that who your sexual partner is or what your proclivities in the evening may be. But they would like to know that. If you go there, if you don't go to the doctor and you don't get the Obamacare and you don't tell the IRS, which is the enforcement arm, and that's why they've given them all those shotguns and bullets and training and such, because I don't envision them actually coming door to door and like shaking you down with a shotgun like some people.
Why not?
But
why not? That definitely could happen.
But
16,000. Would they get 16,000 new agents when it's in this legislation? 16,000 new armed IRS agents.
Well, that's
Great.
what they said, but they could only really hire 5 because they stole the rest of the money. So that didn't really pan out. I'm sure. Yeah, I mean, we're going to create all of these jobs in government. Like, okay, and then how does that work out?
And with the way everything's becoming digitalized, everything's becoming very much surveillable. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Everything, you go to the doctor now. As we all remember, when you walk in the doctor's office, they got all the charts with the alphabet. So this is how they pull your file to see.
Probably just have an iPad now, right?
Yeah, absolutely. It's all going digital, and they're spending billions and billions of dollars to do this. And to me, it's another method of control. You will, the way the nation's going is you will work for a major corporation. Every penny you make will be direct deposited into your account. Everything will be handled electronically, as far as your income, as far as your outflow through your mortgage or whatever, your insurance, and everything medically is going to be digitalized and very much at the fingertips of a bunch of bureaucrats.
Well, look,
so
the forefront of concern is waiters, tips. The IRS they're getting screwed. Got to go after you for internet sales tax. Got to make sure that Amazon's giving Florida enough money. So we got to make sure. So it's putting the screws down on the American people, the people that are trying to get over on the government. Meanwhile, these a-holes, these disgusting people.
Disgusting. I'm rooting you on.
I'm really trying to not drop the 4-letter bombs
Do it.
here. No, there's no point. I don't want to. I don't want to scare people away, scare you from listening to this in front of your children, maybe, or at least at work. But keep it somewhat friendly. But most people are probably more offended about us talking crap about the iPhone than they are about using 4-letter words.
Do you use that platform? Are you an iPhoner? You don't have to tell me if you don't.
No.
Yeah, I think you and I have the same, don't we?
I use the Google Droid, or I call it the Google NSA.
The NSA droid? Yeah, the NSA device? I use the Samsung device.
Yeah, everybody does, unless you use the iPhone. It's the iPhone or the Samsung device. The day that they unveiled the new iPhone, BlackBerry basically died. They laid off 2,500 employees and
see, for business, I had BlackBerry.
You know why they died, though, right? Remember who was in love with the BlackBerry? Had to get a special BlackBerry just because of the security risks to the global world, the global threat matrix. Remember?
No.
Barack Obama. He had his BlackBerry, couldn't give it up, and it was a big story in 2008 when he
I remember
became
it now.
president.
He had a special one, yeah.
He had a special BlackBerry. That was the kiss of death.
Yeah. Wrap this up, brother. We're an hour and 2 minutes into it, and I am suffering. But I do want to thank Doug Owen, who commented on the last DoomCast. You're the first one up there.
Yeah.
I want to thank all the folks who dropped in, especially Skybird. She leaves comments every program. And thanks for taking the time to listen and, of course, leave your comments. We read them all. I know you do, Doug, don't you?
Yeah, I try to read all of them. On the YouTube videos, I read all of them. Sometimes people will try to, hit me up on Facebook or, leave a direct message on Twitter. So some of those are kind of hit or miss. Some of those platforms I log into like every 2 months just to see what's going on. And, then I immediately am repulsed and I walk away from the Facebook. So if you email me, if the comments are on the YouTube, yes. Special thanks to Sarah in Lincoln, Nebraska. She sent in $20, Charlie. And she said, quote, "This contribution is both for BLN, blacklistednews.com, and DoomCast. Doug and Charlie, you make me laugh, cry, and sigh. Keep doing what you are doing. You are, quote, truther goodness wrapped in comedy gold, physical, not paper, laughing out loud. That's right, no ETFs here. So thank you, Sarah. I will give Mr. Mcgrath $10 when I see him.
Yes.
Or
wait a minute, what?
Or when he really needs it. I mean, if he needs it, I'll shoot it to him. But if I try to send it to your PayPal, they'll take $5. The bankers have to get $5 out of that deal somehow.
Oh, I got my ledger going right here, Doug
there
Owen.
You go. I see it. All right. Mike M wrote, "I enjoyed the last show. Exclamation point. Forget Syria. We need more vicious Russian beaver news. I agree. And I want to thank Yelm Gymnastics Center in Yelm, Washington. They went to blacklistednews.com and used the Bluehost affiliate link on the left-hand side and started a website. And they are, or at least somebody in their home, I don't know, maybe it was the son that was reading some news, clicked us from Twitter, there was a cookie laying around, somebody went to Blacklisted News. Not really sure, but they are a family and community-oriented facility providing recreational and competitive gymnastics, tumble, and trampoline, martial arts, and fitness classes for all ages and ability levels in wherever it's at, somewhere up there in the beautiful state of Washington, Yelm. It's yelmgymnastics.com. So thanks.
Cool.
That credits Blacklisted News for $65 American money. So that's not bad. It's not too bad for a sign.
Very nice.
So.
I appreciate all the support. The comments, and of course the people who are donating, and I mean that's really impressive and really important, and can't thank them enough because when somebody reaches in their own pocket and decides they're going to help out financially, that's a big deal. And I know I'm going to have a listener who she has supported Pearl. I'm just going to call her Pearl because I don't want to give her name. She has supported my radio program, my website, consistently for years. And when you have somebody like that, it really helps you get it together. And
I want to thank all of you brave bloggers out there that dare to put the DoomCast on your show. I know, or on your pages. I saw deprogram.net daring to put the DoomCast on their page, and hits coming from other places like that too.
I believe Before It's News has put us on before, as well as oh man, I'm completely drawing a blank on who else. Before It's News,
there's
Activist Post has put us out. Of course, Blacklisted News, Wide Awake News. We post these every week, but I do appreciate everybody doing that too. So visit those sites.
I appreciate you, Charlie Mcgrath, for hanging out with us on this Thursday, belated edition of DoomCast number 9. And I think that's pretty much it. You got anything else?
Just thanks everybody for tuning in, and hopefully my voice is 100% next week, so I don't sound like a doomer from Doomerville. Yeah,
well, if not, it adds to the drama in your voice, Charlie Mcgrath. It really.
It's all coming to an end. It's all coming to an end. That's what I feel like.
It is for somebody, and hopefully not you out there. Hope to see you back here next week for another live edition of the DoomCast. Wait,
we're double digits. We're double digits next week. DC 10.
Yeah,
I'm excited.
We'll see you then, guys.
Literally took me this bottle of water and this giant mug of tea, and my voice is crashing hard.
I drank a whole thing of tea too. It was good, but now I'm all wired. I'm gonna run around in circles.
Yeah, you run in circles. I'm gonna go. Here's what I'm gonna do next.